fire with shadows on my heels. Scars turn to stories that taught me to feel. Lost in the silence, found in the flame. Now wear my battle cry without shame. This isn't the end, it's where I begin. A soul that remembers the fire within.
Welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, brought to you by Praxis 33. I'm your host, Daryl Snow. Let's dive in. Thanks for joining me again today. And for those of you that have been following the show, know that I've been doing this for 3 years now. And as we come into the reflection of 3 years, I've had the honor and privilege of interviewing some really tremendous people. And today it's taken me the entire 3 years to get my guest on. But my friend Ana Catalina Colon, she's been someone that I've really been excited to bring on because she truly, to me, embodies what the show is about, and that's having a warrior spirit and standing tall in spite of everything. So, Ana, I appreciate you joining me today, and thank you for finally arriving.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for the
Congratulations
thank.
on 3 years, 154 episodes. That's exciting.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, for someone who never even wanted to be a podcaster, that's pretty amazing. And now we're on Roku and Apple and
That's
Spotify
amazing.
and getting to see you everywhere. So I appreciate you joining me. And like I said, you're one of those people that I've really wanted to talk to because as someone who's been my friend for 8 years, I've seen you go through part of your journey. I haven't been privy to all of your journey because, we haven't sat and had coffee often. But from what you've shared and what you posted, you just embody what I think the warrior spirit is. And that's someone who, in spite of her struggles, still stands tall. And every time I see you, you still wear that beautiful smile and
Thank
have that
you.
glimmer in your eyes. So we were talking off camera. You grew up actually in Mexico?
I did. My mother moved to Mexico. Actually, she did an exchange program when she was 18 in Mexico City and met my dad. And a month and a half later, he proposed, and she went back to Wisconsin and told her parents, "I'm getting married and I'm moving to Mexico." So
Well,
that was a big shock for my American side of the family that my mom would move all the way from Wisconsin down to Mexico City to get married.
yeah, I grew up in
But
Iowa, so knowing the Midwest and the way that region thinks, that had to be like, what are you talking about?
yes, I think they thought, what happened in those 2 months in Mexico that you're changing your entire life? But that's kind of how her story went. And so my mom and dad got married, and my mom had my oldest sister, my middle sister, and me. I was born in Chiapas, Mexico. And when I was 11, my mom and dad got a divorce, and my mom decided to come back up to the US. By that point, my grandparents have moved from Wisconsin to El Paso, Texas, because that was a closer city for her to be able to see her, but still in the U.S. So we moved to El Paso when I was 11 and had to kind of start all over. Life was so different in Mexico than it was moving to the U.S. First of all, where I grew up in Chiapas, it's a jungle. Like, it's very tropical, very green trees, giant green trees everywhere. And I could be at a friend's house and there could be an iguana just kind of walking in her backyard wall or something, and it wasn't unusual. And I grew up having all kinds of cool pets. I had a parrot, a macaw, I think, at one point. It flew away, I think. And then we had these giant birds with polka dots everywhere, and those flew away a couple times. I had a pet deer, a fox, a ton of different dogs, bunnies, you name it. I think if we told my dad that we wanted it, we had it. And it
That
wasn't
was
unusual.
definitely not going to happen in El Paso. I've
No.
lived in Texas, and El Paso is not the same. It's like going from night to day.
Yes, I remember we used to have a huge yard in Mexico and again, lots of trees. And when we moved to the US, first of all, it was a sad situation because my parents had split up. And in Mexico, we had a big yard and the luxury of having people help, clean and cook and do things for us because that was a little bit more common, I guess, where we lived. And and it was funny. I remember my mom the first time that she taught us how to like clean the bathroom, and I was so excited to see the bubbles when I was like scrubbing the toilet. I'm like, oh, look, that's kind of fun. I was 11, so I got a kick out of that, but I had never had to do, chores or whatever. And to me, it was that phase of the transition wasn't difficult, but to my sister, I think that was because, life was hard. We moved here with just a couple boxes in our suitcases. Like we didn't bring anything with us from Mexico. And, a few months we were sleeping on the floor and we didn't have furniture. It was like, okay, we're in the US and at least we have a roof over our heads. So that was a new experience. And then I was the weird girl that was in ESL. I don't know if you've heard of ESL.
Oh yeah,
So it's the English
second
as a second
language.
language.
Yeah.
And they just see this little white girl walk in and they're like, why are you in this class? And I could speak English because I grew up obviously with my mom speaking English, but I never studied in English. I always did school in Spanish. So a lot of words and writing were completely foreign to me. Not foreign, but it was just difficult. Like I'd pronounce things in Spanish instead of English, or if I was trying to find a word that exists in Spanish, but it wasn't in my English library, I'd be like, oh, what is this? How do I say this in English? And I think I shocked quite a few people because I didn't fit the mold of what they considered a Mexican, but in all reality, I was more Mexican than everybody at my school. you know, Even most of the ESL kids, I was like, why are you here? You're not Mexican. So
Did you
it,
get bullied a lot?
I did actually. I think it was eighth grade. There was a girl that really just did not like me, and I really don't know why. Maybe I was a little Miss Goody Two Shoes because I went to private Catholic school in Mexico, and there you have to sit a certain way, and you just don't say anything in class. And I moved to a public school where people are very wild. Like I remember just thinking, what is happening in this classroom? Like people are talking and they're not sitting in their chairs and they sit like however they want. And so I was the weird girl that had more like I just remember I had to sit like this all the time, and that was just how I was comfortable. That was just how I was used to having to sit. Just weird stuff. But I got bullied. I got shoved into lockers and started like somebody started hitting me, and one of my best friends that's literally like this tall compared to me came to my rescue and started, pulling them away and telling them, get away from her. And I remember thinking, wow, like at the time, she wasn't my best friend. It was just somebody that went to school with me. But after that, she's been my lifelong best friend because she stood up for me at a time that I really didn't even know how to react. Like I had never seen anything like that. Nobody that I would have known in my entire life growing up would have ever behaved that way. It was just not normal for girls to fight or bully like that because I think we knew we would get in deep trouble, and it just wasn't part of our culture. The culture in Chiapas is so sweet. Like people are just the nicest people. They'll give you the shirt off their back if they see you're in need, and I love that about my Mexican culture and heritage is that I grew up with a humble soul, a giving soul, one that helps others, and is very kind. So that I feel is something I always want to cherish and hold on to, even if things are hard, just to remember that as long as that part of me is still there and the world doesn't make me hard, I think that that is a win. And that's part of being a warrior, I think. So,
Yeah. So how long did it take you to assimilate to the new culture? Because teenage years from 11 till probably 18 is tough enough for females, and the relationship with their parents or their mom
yeah,
changes drastically during that time. And so getting thrust into this new environment, getting bullied, finding like total difference from where, from kind and sweet to bullied and shoved into
yeah,
lockers, to coming from a place where you have freedom to roam and all the pets, to El Paso. And anyone
yes,
who knows Texas, all you have to do is say El Paso and almost
they
everyone,
know that, yeah, that it's just
cringe.
different. Desert, it's
Yeah.
all, everybody knows everybody,
So
but
who helped you navigate that? Who helped you navigate that hard transition?
so I think what was really cool is I went from a middle school where everybody knew each other, and I got there in, seventh grade, and because they had all grown up since like kindergarten or something. And I was the new girl that was weird, I guess. So then when I went to high school, there was new kids from everywhere, and so I really think that high school was where I was starting to realize, like, I think I'll be okay. And it was pretty neat because I actually, in Mexico, PE was never a thing. Like, I went to all girl private Catholic school with nuns. PE was playtime. It was like fresh air,
Yeah.
like they didn't make you run or do anything. Like, if you wanted to run, you could run, but it was
Yeah.
just fresh air time. And I remember moving to the US, and they're like, you got to run a mile in like 5 minutes. And I was like, what's that? And I had no idea. And so we were in PE, and the coach said, run around the school, be back. And by the time I got back, the coach was like, where were you? I'm like, well, you said I had to go around the school. And he's like a half hour ago, And I was like, oh, well, I didn't know how long it would take me. So little things like that. But the one thing I did grow up doing was playing racquetball. That was kind of a sport that we did as a family. And so when I got to high school, I had to take PE. It's like not optional. So when I did PE, they go like a rotation of whether you, I don't know, they show you all the sports like racquetball, not racquetball. It's uh, soccer and basketball, volleyball, and tennis. On the period that I did tennis, I was like, oh, I could do this. I could hit the ball with a racket. And the coach was like, why aren't you on the team? And I thought, well, I don't play, I don't do sports. And he was like, no, I want you on the team. And so I think I went from being in PE to being officially on the team, which was hilarious because I didn't work out. I just like to hit the ball, but I didn't like running and conditioning. That was not fun. But 4 years of doing that, you do eventually kind of hit a stride and really learn to enjoy it. And I don't remember the point of what we were talking about, but yeah, so high school. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So I went from being like the odd girl in middle school that had just moved to US to move to high school where I found my group. I was part of the nerds. I always got straight A's. I graduated with like a 98.9 GPA. I think I was the 11th in my class. I was so mad I didn't make it to the top 10. And got a scholarship for college for being involved in a lot of different activities and volunteering a lot. And I did start working at a young age as well. And so I lived in El Paso till I was 17. And I think that was where I would say I really found a lot of freedom and learned that, wow, like anything I dream, I could actually make it happen. I think that's one difference of the US versus Mexico is it Mexico has a beautiful culture, very warm and welcoming, but also as a woman in Mexico, you're limited to what you think you are able to do, I think culturally. Like you're kind of conditioned to like even just the way you behave in school, very like, okay, I am girls are to be seen, not heard, sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like keep your mouth shut, behave a certain way, be a lady. And all of those things are great, but as long as you still know that you have freedom and strength and opportunity to really reach whatever goals you want to reach versus your goal is to grow up and get married and have kids, and I actually, now that I am a mom, I do think that that's a beautiful goal to have. Probably the most important role you'll ever have is to become a parent.
Yeah.
um, so I get it, but I think that just I'm very blessed to see both like perspectives
Mm-hmm.
in internally and having grown up with like both, and I've chosen to pick the good out of both to mold my life around the good out of both. I
So
think
where did you
that's
go to college? Where was?
so I went to college in Austin, Texas. I went
Okay.
to, yeah,
So
St.
you stayed in
Edward.
Texas.
I did, yes. And those 4 years were amazing too. I was able to get a double major with business administration and marketing, and was super involved in college. Graduated with a presidential award and summa cum laude.
Wow.
So I really loved school. I just loved school. I've always loved learning and excelling at learning things. And I think part of, being that warrior, I think, or having that warrior spirit is just always having that self drive. And like no one is telling me you need to do this. It's really coming from within. Like I'm always just excited
Yeah.
to try something or learn or be involved and give back and talk to people and be part of the community. That's just how I'm wired. So, and then even if things are hard, I think part of being a warrior is persevering through it
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing it as a challenge, not as a not as something that is impossible. There's going to be stumbling blocks along the way, people that don't believe that, what you want to do is reasonable. I remember when I said I wanted to go away for college, my family was against it. They're like, why don't you go to UTEP? It's right here. Then you just live here and you go to UTEP. And I was like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to go to UTEP.
I would have.
Nothing against it. That wasn't what I wanted.
Yeah, I would have told my mom, remember you moved from Wisconsin to Mexico? Like
Yes.
Austin isn't that big of a stretch.
Exactly. I told my mom that. I'm like, okay, when you were my age, you were getting married,
Yeah.
after 1 month of being away from home, but I think they had that fear. My grandparents were like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
But I think again, it's just not in my way of being to go and not try to succeed
But
or
something
make
along the way, I know from part of your journey, because you had this beautiful life in Mexico, you came and struggled a little bit in the US and then found your groove and found your footing and excelled again. But you just recently posted a picture of what you called your sad 30s.
yes.
So you were 60 plus pounds heavier. You
Hmm.
were going through a traumatic experience, how you felt, postpartum with your daughter. So what led you from
Yes.
that
So
arc into that?
yeah. So yeah, this is what the conversation we were having before the
Right.
podcast. So yeah, I graduated college. I got a job working for Course in their sales team. Had a lot of fun. But I think what happened is that I really kind of lost track of me. I became so driven in goals that I forgot that I needed to go back to the basics and take care of me. And by the time I was 26, I had lived in Chiapas, I had lived in El Paso, I had lived in Austin, I had lived in Baltimore, Maryland for a job, I had lived in Colorado, Houston, back in Colorado, and Arizona. So I'd moved 6 times by the time I was 26, and out of those 6 times, 4 different moves were after college. And every time I moved, it was for my work, which is great. It was for a new promotion or a new opportunity. But I did start feeling very lonely. And like all I ever did was work. I didn't really prioritize my health, I didn't prioritize working out. I remember just feeling tired all the time and not knowing people, like having to start over every time, moving to a city where you don't know anybody. And the older you get, the harder it is to make those friendships, and how do you meet people? That I think at the time, Facebook groups and all that stuff didn't exist, so it was like, okay. And I'd go outside in Queen Creek, Arizona, and everybody's families, most a different religion, because there's a lot of Mormons that lived there at the time. And so there was no way for me to like meet people, which is how I ended up meeting the person, my ex-husband. We were actually introduced by a mutual friend through a blind date. And it was a breath of fresh air to have a friend meet somebody that lived nearby and have that companionship. And we dated and became boyfriend girlfriend, got engaged after a year, and then had a year-long engagement. And then afterwards, after we were married, we were trying to conceive and had a lot of trouble trying to have a baby. That was a challenge. It was like, why isn't this happening? At this time I was 29. We were trying to have a baby and it wasn't happening. Like, I think 2 years went by, well, 2 years from when we got married. Finally, I got pregnant, which was honestly a huge turning point in my life. I think I was always scared to have a baby. You spend so much of your life trying not to have babies that then when you have the freedom to have one, you're like, oh my God, can I even do this? Had a difficult pregnancy. I had low amniotic fluid, so I had to go in very often to get medical, like to get ultrasounds and make sure that she was okay, because babies need a certain amount of amniotic fluid to survive. And anyway, but 9 months later, or actually 8 months later, she came a little early. Lily came, and I couldn't believe the miracle of life. What a gift that was. And I would say I've always said that, yes, I'm Christian. At the time I was Catholic. I think growing up I was always Catholic, and I've always thought, God is real, God exists. But the moment that I was pregnant was the moment that I was like, whoa, like God is real, because this is not me doing anything. I'm not doing anything, and there's something growing inside of me, and I think that is the first realization that so much of our lives is controlled by a higher power and God, because the beauty of life is the beauty of, you just live your life and something beautiful grows from you. And all that beauty that grows from you is truly a gift from God, whether it be a baby in your belly or the love you share from others. Just living your life and appreciating the fact that you wake up and get to breathe is huge,
So let me
Um,
ask you, Anna, how did you go from this miraculous beauty that you
exactly.
wanted to do to having the postpartum symptoms of
It is so crazy because it hits you and you don't even know because again, like I was in La La Land, I was so happy. But what happened is at the time, and now things have changed as well. I got 4 weeks off after having a baby for parental leave or maternity leave, which is nothing. Like here I am with this little tiny baby, and I got 4 weeks off, and then I think we took 2 weeks vacation and 2 weeks without pay, and after 8 weeks, I had to go back to work, and my daughter had to go to daycare, and that was hard. And I was nursing too, so it was like trying to navigate motherhood and work, and then I had a job that required me to travel. So I think again, I let work become something that pulled me away from something I really loved. And not that I didn't love my work, I did love my work, but I was conflicted because up until then, really the only thing I had to focus on was myself and work.
Mhm.
Then I get married, and then I'm like, okay, I have to manage myself, my husband, and work. And then all of a sudden, you stop prioritizing yourself. You're like, work needs me. Work is asking for this. Work is asking for that. My husband needs me. He needs this. He's asking for that. And so you start losing balance and you start really putting everything else as more important than yourself. Then throw in a baby and nursing and work and marriage and chores and laundry and washing dishes. I just lost myself. And I could see that this happens to a lot of people, a lot of women. Um, Also, I think one of the things about nursing is that you're producing hormones that help your body feel better. They say there's, I don't remember, I don't know if it's prolactin or whatever, but it's like a feel good hormone, and that bond you have with your baby is amazing. But, about 10 months in, it was like, okay, I've got to start weaning because traveling and doing that was not easy. Like, I'd have to pack my pump and my ice chest. And I remember being at the airport and people would be like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's breast milk. And they're like, oh, liquid gold. Okay, be very careful. They treated it like gold. They're like,
Yeah,
okay, because it's not easy.
yeah.
Um, but as soon as that process ended, it was like my hormones just went boof, you know, and the sleep schedule was off. My daughter was a night baby, like she was awake all night. And we ended up finding out it was because when she'd go to daycare, they just let her sleep all day.
Mm.
So then she'd come home and she wanted to play all night. And I was not getting sleep. I'd have to take her to daycare, go to work all day, come back, and my ex-husband worked a lot, more than I did. So I just remember my 30s being very lonely. If it wasn't for my daughter, but I loved her, but it was another like a lot of responsibility, um, and and I just didn't feel the support. My family all lived in El Paso. I didn't have any family in Arizona. So I just once again just stopped taking care of myself. And I think at that time you really need a partner that takes care of you. That's going to say, you know what? Take the day off to take care of yourself. Get some
Hmm.
rest. I'll watch her. It wasn't like that in my situation. I don't want to say anything about my ex, other than by the time my daughter was 5, our marriage had just hit a point where it just wasn't gonna work. We had a lot of struggles in our marriage. A lot of both he went through a lot of things personally in his past and during the time that we were married, and a lot of things happened in my side of the family during the time that we were married too. I lost my grandfather, and that hit me really hard. I found out my dad was very sick and needed to be put into a care facility, and we had to figure out the finances for that to be able to help my dad. There was just a lot of hard things on top of being a parent and raising a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
And those toddler years are beautiful. I mean, she was just the cutest kid, but it is a lot of work feeding them, bathing them. I mean, I remember my back just hurting so bad from bending over to give her a bath, and then picking her up, and I did all of that myself. Like, I did not get a lot of help with the child care part. And I think, again, that's that cultural thing of me that, no, I'm the mom, it's my job. No, I'm the mom, it's my job, And so I think I never asked for help because I didn't expect it.
But
It
because
was
of
like,
that cultural thing, you also put on a lot of expectations on yourself that help devalue your emotional regulation, because
mhm.
now you're torn between work and husband and child and guilt that you're not able to be enough for everybody and do everything. Imagine the families that do this with 2, 3, 4 children. Like, it's crazy.
So hard. Yeah, I can't even
So
imagine.
so you gained all this weight, you kind of went into a depressive state, your marriage fell apart, you're still trying to survive with your job. When was that moment where you said, enough is enough, this is enough bullshit, I'm taking back control?
Yes. So I would say a huge miracle happened. You know how the housing market crashed in Arizona
Yeah.
and
Oh,
all the houses were worth like half of what you financed?
yeah.
A lot of people walked away from their mortgages, did foreclosures and stuff. For me, I was kind of lucky because when I moved from Colorado to Arizona, I was able to put money into the house in Queen Creek to where, even though I was upside down, my mortgage itself wasn't off by that much. And so my husband and I made the decision to sell the house in Queen Creek and move to Chandler. And because the market was low, there was no way I could have moved to Chandler 6 years before, because the market was so expensive. But at that time, it was like, you know what, our mortgage is going to be the same. And we get double the space and a yard and all of this. So let's do it. So we were one of the smart people that bought when the market was low.
Mhm.
And that helped me a lot because at the time, even though I lived in Queen Creek, my job was in Tolleson, Arizona. So my commute was an hour each way. So moving to Chandler helped a lot. And my job actually changed too. I don't remember. Yes, the year that Lily was born, I think it was. I moved from Coors to the company I work for now. At the time, it was called Beam Global Spirits, I think. So I work for Jim Beam and Maker's Mark. You can see my Maker's Mark sign right
There you go.
there. Yeah, I moved to a different company.
There it
Yep,
is.
right
Yeah.
there. Oh, and then I think you could see my bottles of Maker's Mark over there too. Here, I'll move this.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
can see.
There we go.
This is
Beautiful.
my office, by the way,
There we
and
go.
that's my
Well,
dog.
that's very comfortable. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice. I like working here. Um, so okay, where was I? Oh,
You
so we moved to Chandler, and my daughter was just old enough to start doing activities. So she actually started swim at 8 months old. We
Oh.
put her in swim class. So I got to meet other moms with little bitty babies and make friends again, like outside of just me, Lily, and my husband. It was
Mhm.
like, hey, here's another mom with her little baby. We're going to the pool. We'd go to the pool, and our babies would do the swim class, and then afterwards we could put them in the daycare part, and then we'd go sit in the jacuzzi for a little bit. But it's those little moments, like taking an extra 30 minutes after the swim class to just relax, hang out with another mom in the hot tub and talk, that really makes your mental health like better, you know. But again, at that time I was still married, things were still hard, but I was starting to expand my network again and make friends again and just kind of feel like myself, like my own identity outside of work, outside of being a wife, and outside of being a mom, like me. Like someone likes me just for being me, you know, because you lose that if you don't make time to remember that, you know, or to just take care of you.
Yeah, self-care is not selfish. Self-care is vital to thriving in any kind of life, especially if you're a giver, and especially if you're someone who, I mean, your culture and your background and where you grew up by nature enabled you to be that giving, but almost to a detriment to where you give beyond your own capacity.
Mhm.
And so you have to replenish that and regain that. So, how did you go from 60 pounds overweight and depressed? What did you start doing to regain your health, to
Yeah,
come back into who you are again and who you were supposed to be again? How did you
yeah.
manage that transformation?
So it all starts again with your mind. You have to set your mind to it, and your mind has to be at a good place to go through those hard things and to say, you know what, this is it, and I'm making a change. So when I moved to Chandler, my house is like, I don't know, maybe less than a mile from Cornerstone, which is where I've been going to church now since 2013, I think. 2013 is when I started going to Cornerstone. And that was, again, another big part of my mental health healing, and building a community that was supportive and loving, and that gave me a place to find myself again, I think. And first of all, really lean on God, you know. When I would go to a Bible study during the week, they had a program for little kids that they could go, and so you could go to Bible study, and the little kids could go to play. And I was like, oh, time, you know. And it was me time for growth. It was, she's being taken care of, and I'm here and I'm growing spiritually, you know. And so that's kind of where the mind and the soul started to kind of come back together and start to heal. And I started sharing a little bit of how I was feeling at home and how stressed I was and how I felt like alone. I had asked at the time my ex husband to go to marriage counseling with me so that we could work things out. And that wasn't his style. You know, he's like, that's your thing. Bible study is your thing. If you want to go to therapy, that's your thing. I don't need it. And it was sad for me, but that he didn't want to go. But I was like, well, at least I can go, you know? So I started therapy, and I went to church, and I went to Bible study. Even though I did it all alone, I didn't care. I was doing it for me, and I was becoming stronger. And so a couple years after I started doing that on my own, I could just see the distance happening between my ex-husband and I. Like I was growing better, stronger, healthier mentally. Physically, I was still overweight. Energy wise, I was still exhausted. Um, Stress wise, I was still managing too much, you know, but I was working on the inner part. I was working on feeling good about myself, that God loved me no matter what, you know, like what I look like or whatever, that however imperfect you are, God loves you and God has a plan for you, and God's working all things in your favor. You know, I remind myself that every day, no matter what, that God's working all things in my favor. You know, even the hard things are working in my favor. And when you start to believe that, it changes you, you know, and over time, enough things happened to where I felt empowered. and my marriage ended. I'll put it nicely. It was a very difficult divorce, very difficult. But after the divorce, it took like a year. And there was just a lot because we were together for 9 years and then together overall 11 years. It was honestly like a breath of fresh air for me. It was like, wow. And I got to keep the house, which was a huge blessing. I will always forever be grateful to my ex-husband for not really fighting on that, because we bought it at such a good price that it was like, oh, if we have to sell it, we're just never going to find a place like this. By then the market had started going up and it was like, oh my God. So I did have to pay his equity, but I got to keep my dream home, and of course I bought it thinking it was going to be a family home and not a single parent home. But again, it was a blessing that we made that decision. Um, but after my divorce, it was like I didn't have to ask for permission to spend money on my health, And I don't mean to be rude, but losing weight costs money.
It
Like
does.
anyone that thinks you just lose weight, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go on a diet and I'm going to lose weight. Good luck with that. Good
Yeah.
luck. That's not how it works.
Yeah. It's cheaper to get heavy than it is to get fit.
You
And
have to
that,
learn how to cook right. For me, the biggest thing was I got health coaches. I got on programs. I tried probably even up until now, I've probably tried like 10 different weight loss programs because some work for a little bit and then you kind of get bored or it starts to like not fit with what you want to do. So you try something else. But I have learned that I'm okay spending an X amount of budget on things that are geared towards keeping me physically healthy, you know?
well, it
And I
doesn't
have
help in
also,
our society though when they poison our food and it makes it, for $1.25 you can eat cheap crap, or for $7 you can eat something healthier and better. Like it's,
yeah,
it's. I'm considerably older than you, and I look back at the 70s and 60s,
yeah,
and you didn't see fat people.
mm-mm,
And my family ate butter and potatoes and steak and meat and stuff fresh out of the garden and vegetables, and they didn't have, like, if you were heavy you were like abnormal, like you were
yeah.
the
They're
one,
like, oh,
you're like,
yeah,
oh yeah. And now if you're thin you're like, oh my god, what are they must be doing, I can't even pronounce the medical term, what is that?
trizepatide. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't done that.
Yeah,
That's something I haven't done.
you must be on that drug to make you thin. Like, no, I'm just staying fit and healthy. Like, it's so disheartening what it takes to stay healthy in today's society. It's maddening.
Very,
So, as someone who moved past what you did, you embraced your 40s, you got healthy. I've known you for 8 years now, so just at the cusp of when you were starting to turn it around. But then you just celebrated your 45th birthday,
yes.
and look at you doing this.
I know. I'm fab over 40.
What
I had a
Explain
great
what Fab Order
photographer.
for. And by the way, I've seen a lot of the photos that you've posted, and they are wonderful. So, who's the
Thank
photographer? Because shout out to them. Who's the
I
photographer?
do. So the photographer for that picture, his name is Tom Becker. And actually you could see it on the sidewalk right there, Tom
Oh
Becker
yeah,
photo.
yep.
He's incredible. A lot of my really fun, kind of edgy photos came from Tom. It's funny because I don't wear my glasses when I do photo shoots. So he's like, turn your head, look at the camera. And I'm like, I can't see you, but I'll try, like trying to take pictures when you're blind is a little bit hard. Um,
So what is Fabulous Over 40? Because I know you were in a contest and you were
I
doing
was,
extremely well in it. You got to the quarterfinals or the semifinals.
I
Uh,
did.
so
So
explain what Fabulous Over 40 is.
yeah, it is a competition for women over 40 that you're competing, but you're competing for a good cause, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You are any funds that you raise through this competition go towards benefiting the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So people can go and vote for you to win this contest for free every day. And you get a free vote every day from anybody who goes and clicks on your link. And they can also donate to you and how you're ranking in this competition. It's a national competition. I think it started off with over 300,000 women. So it was a huge amount of people. I was in first place through 6 rounds of the competition. So I'm so grateful for everybody that was going online and voting for me every day. And I'm very grateful for all the money we raised for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. It's really amazing to see that kind of support for a cause that's very important to a lot of women and to me. And it was cool because there is a prize for winning the competition for the women who do it. And I could see why they offer an incentive to continue to participate, because it is not an easy task to try to raise funds for a charity. It's really hard. And so it's kind of smart of them to lean into beauty, I think. But what I love about it is that the competition it's not just a beauty contest. It is um, a networking opportunity, an opportunity to bring awareness to breast cancer, and an opportunity to raise funds for that. And if you did win, which I unfortunately got eliminated in the quarterfinals, and frankly, it's a lot of like kudos to all the ladies that are still in it, because it means they're still fighting and still pushing for funds. I just got to the point where I didn't have the time to keep going and soliciting money and fundraising. Which, if I do it again next year, I know how I'm going to change things up a little bit, because the quarterfinals are so aggressive that I think that I would change my strategy a little bit next year. But anyway, I'm very proud of it. And I think that the ladies that do it should just give themselves a huge round of applause and huge kudos, because it's such a fun competition, and it's women. If every round you make, you get like freebies from New Beauty magazine. So New Beauty magazine partners with Fab Over 40. I'm sure they're big sponsors of the National Breast Cancer Foundation as well. So they partner with Fab Over 40 and the National Breast Cancer Foundation. The winner will get. I won't be a winner this year, but maybe next year. The winner will get a photo shoot on the cover of New Beauty magazine. So that was something that I was like, ooh, I would love to do that. But
They also
another
do
time.
Fab over 50 and Fab over 60. But what I love, and I really wish I had the side by side of that photo that you posted of your sad, and you
Oh
call it
yeah,
I'm using your words, my sad 30s, because the smile in this photo and the
yeah,
smile on your face right now cannot be faked if there's tons of sadness in your heart. Those
yeah.
are genuine, and those are from the inside. Those are not just exterior smiles. Those are smiles from the
Thank
inside.
you.
And that really says that you have transformed back into caring for you and for who you are. Now, your
Thank
daughter's
you.
how old now?
She's 13 now.
Now you get the teens. So
She's amazing though. I am so blessed. She's a good student, hardworking at school. Does She's doing robotics right now, and we just have such a great. She's very creative and artistic. She loves to paint. I love to paint. We're both very artistic, even though my job is statistics, basically. A lot of analysis and formulas in Excel and Power BI and Tableau. And
creative
like,
financing.
yeah, no, it's a lot of math and programming. So I do think that for my brain and just my soul and everything in general, my mental health, it's nice to have those creative outlets. And so my daughter and I share that passion for art.
Well, if someone who's listening to your story and sees, this glow that you currently have and hears what you came through to get there and how you kind of lost yourself, along the way. And they said, Anna, I'm kind of going through that. I can relate to the children thing. I kind of don't know who I am. What would you tell them to help get them back on track to find themselves?
Yeah, I think I would tie it to your podcast name is really take on your warrior spirit. Like, don't give up. Don't give up. Put on that armor, and say, I'm going to go out, and even though things are hard and it's a battlefield out there, I have the armor, and for me it's the armor of God that's going to help me get through. That even if I'm up against Goliath and I'm this big, it's not coming from me. It's coming from God. Like, it's a strength that comes from beyond you. And I can honestly say that there's gonna be times where your strength alone is not enough. It's not. So whether you believe in God or not, have something in your life that gives you that strength when you're not strong. Hopefully it's your spouse. That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be designed that you have each other and you bring each other up when one needs strength, the other pulls you up. When the other needs strength, they pull you up. I think that's a beautiful part of being in a relationship and being married. And I pray that for everyone who is married, that's the type of marriage they have. But even then, you cannot put all the responsibility of your joy and happiness on your spouse. That's not their responsibility. Your responsibility is to make sure that you are taking care of your own self and that your cup runs over and you give out of the overflow. You don't let your cup become empty, and you don't let other people, you don't expect other people to fill your cup for you. You have to do it. And those are all lessons that, frankly, I learned by working on my spiritual journey first. Again, I was still overweight, but working on the parts that mattered, which was my mental health, like getting my mental and emotional health back at a place where I could think clearly, where I was remembering that it's okay to take care of myself and that it's important to rely on God when things are hard, because he will lead you through the fire. And that is something no human can do. No one can lead you through the fire except for God. And that is, I think, the first step. Then don't let people shame you about how you lose weight, because there's going to be people that say you're cheating. Oh, that's why you lost weight, because you're spending money on a program. Oh, because you're taking whatever, GLP or whatever. Luckily that didn't exist a few years ago, so I didn't do that. But I may have done it, if it existed back then. It took me like 2.5 years to lose all my weight. It was slow and painful. But when you start seeing results because you're getting that coaching and support and you're on special meal plans and you've got a program and you're like, this is it. This is what I do. And if I mess up the program, it's going to mess up my results. And then you have weekly calls with your coach and they're like, so tell me how you did. What did you eat? All of that keeps you on track. So for me, it's community. Well, first God, faith, having that as your backbone, as your armor, then having a good community of people that pick you up and guide you and support you and hold you accountable on those things that are really important to you, whether it be your faith, your health, your career. I think that's important to have people in all of those aspects that you look up to that can coach you or mentor you. There's people willing to do it for free, so you don't have to pay for that. Obviously, a lot of my mentors I'm not paying for it, but for my health stuff, I think it just when I know I'm spending money, it hurts my pocket. It's like, I got to take this seriously. I don't do the same stuff I did before. Now I'm on maintenance, so it's just like buying certain vitamins and snacks that are more expensive but healthy. I can't eat potato chips. I can't eat real cookies, because when I do, I don't just have one, I'll have 10, so things like that. But I don't know. I know I
So let
rambled
me
on.
ask you, that's okay. Let me ask you, as we kind of come to the close here, who is the Anna today versus who the Anna was in her 20s? And what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, beautiful. I would say the Ana Catalina today is definitely more wise, has learned through hardship. I lost my grandma in COVID. I lost my dad in COVID. Those two hit hard. Um, I've lost a lot of friends, and friends have lost their parents. So we're at an age now where loss is a real thing. You don't know. All you could do is do your best today, and tomorrow will worry about itself. I think I grew up always worrying about tomorrow and not being present in the today. So I think it's really important that I want my legacy to be one of faith, one where my daughter knows that, hey, things got hard, but I didn't give up. I was a warrior. And when things were hard, I didn't lean on my own strength and my own understanding. I leaned on God. I leaned on His promise, and He got me through the fire. And so if that's the legacy that I could leave to her, is that, look, there's going to be fires. There's going to be temptation. Everybody has a different temptation. For me, it was food. Food was my temptation. I could not, if it was in front of me, I wanted to eat it. If it was a cookie, if it was a dessert, if it was junk, it was very hard for me to say no. Everybody has something that you've got to learn to say no to. And I'm learning that too. I'm learning to say no to things that aren't good for me, and to be okay with it. So I don't know. I think my legacy is just don't give up. Keep fighting, and don't let the world bring you down. Just always have a smile.
Well, I appreciate that you finally quit saying no to this show and actually come on.
Thank you so much. It's been fun. I know I talk a lot. I know I ramble a lot. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that people
Well,
got
I
good
appreciate you coming on and sharing part of your journey, and you have such a beautiful spirit, and it truly embodies what a warrior spirit is. And I thank you for helping me wrap up 3 years of this show and doing this with me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for thinking of me. I really am honored. Thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And if you'd like to get in touch with Anna, you can do so on her social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And as
Perfect.
always, thank you for joining us on this edition of A Warrior Spirit. We're now on all the major platforms as well as Roku via the Prospera TV app. So be sure to like or subscribe to catch all the episode. And as always, the journey is sacred, the warrior is you. So remember to be inspired, be empowered, and embrace the spirit of the warrior within.
It's not just about the fight, it's how we rise from it.